What is up, guys? Today we're going to be looking at some team comp stuff. Now this is something I've wanted to do for a while and you've been asking me to do for a while, and I finally figured out a good way of doing it. So today we're going to be looking at the hard engage comp. Now this is probably the most common and it's probably the easiest to play as well. We're going to run through it in a nutshell. We're going to then look at the picks, we're going to look at how you play it and how you win with it, and then also how you beat it and what you want to avoid. Right, so what is hard engage in a nutshell? Well, really, it's exactly what it says on the tin. Like, you're engaging, you're doing it hard, and then you're picking a fight. In general, you want to be picking things that have these mid-game power spikes. And what I mean by a power spike is like a new item or a new level, for example, that gives you a burst in power. That kind of leads on to the next thing, which is you're going to be bursting to kill targets quickly, or at least you want some follow-up after the engage. So you'll be picking things like Graves, for example, who's good mid-game with a lot of ability damage and burst damage, rather than a Caitlyn who is really good late-game but relies on auto-attacks. Really, if I have to put it down to like one sentence, it's just that you group and you engage when it suits you. You either catch people or you just push your advantage when you're ahead and you keep fighting. It definitely is the easiest comp to play because all you have to do is you group and you fight. So when we're looking at picks, instead of me going through like every single champion and saying whether they're good or bad, I'm just going to give you some examples of what the things you should look for when you're picking a champion for this comp. So in the top lane, we'll be looking at Malphite, Maokai, and Hecarim. So Malphite is pretty self-explanatory, like he just has a big ultimate which can engage with, and that's part of his kit. For Maokai, he doesn't necessarily have hard engage in his kit, but he does build Righteous Glory, which means that he can run at them with that item and then lock them down to engage. Hecarim finally is again different. He relies on his home guard and his teleport to actually make an impact. So he's going to base, he's going to TP off to the side and then engage with his home guards. When we're looking at the jungle, you have things like this Maokai pick, like Gragas and Volibear, Sejuani, who are going to Righteous Glory and then run at people to lock them down. But you also have the other side of it, so the more carry orientated, like Vi and Nocturne, who can hard engage but also kill people when they get into the fight. Finally, support is a little bit different, okay? Because if your jungle and your top lane are diving in to engage, then you don't necessarily want to dive as well and leave your mid and AD alone. Now, if you don't have hard engage on your other lanes, then you want to pick something like Nautilus and Leona, and especially with a Righteous Glory, you can run at them and lock them down with CC to hard engage. If you already do have engage though, something like a Thresh or a Janna would actually be really useful for keeping your AD and mid lane alive. So moving on to the mid lane and the AD then, these guys are your follower, right? These are the damage after the engage has happened. So for the mid lane, it's pretty simple. It's any burst champion. So like Ahri, Katarina, Twisted Fate, Annie, anything that can catch up to the fight and kill things quickly. For the ADs, it's a little bit different. You have kind of two splits, I guess, down the middle. You have these burst champions like Graves, Jinx, Corki, who can do a lot of damage quickly. And on the other side of things, you actually have these hard engage ADs. So you have things like Ashe with her arrow, you have Sivir with her ultimate, who can actually enable your team to hard engage anyway. Right, so now you have an idea of what kind of picks are good for this comp, right? But this is how you're actually going to use it and how you're going to win with it. So in the early lane phase, it's not that important. You just lane, you try to get dragon if you can, but most of your engage and your power comes in spikes with levels like your ultimate or items like your Righteous Glory. So the mid game is where you actually start to use the comp, and there's really three parts, okay? So there's the pick, there's the objectives, and there's the full-on fight. So the pick is where you really catch someone, and the best way of doing this is pushing your side waves in and then grouping mid or grouping to another lane if you want to. And when someone goes to a side lane to farm that wave, you have a 3 or a 4v5 and you can hard engage and you have the numbers advantage. So this is really the safest way to play this comp because they either go there to farm it or they lose all that gold and maybe a tower too, and you don't even have to engage if they don't because you're getting things in these side lanes. So objectives are really important to this composition because you want to be forcing objectives and controlling dragons. So either they come to you and you can engage, which is exactly what you want, or they back off and they give you the objective for free. So again, this is a complete win-win for you. Finally, if these two things aren't working, like if they aren't going to the side lanes and you're not getting anything, and if there are no objectives to take, then you just want a flat out team fight. So with this composition, you want to figure out who you want to focus, make sure you get the engage onto them, focus them down straight away, instantly make the fight a 4v5, and then you have an advantage from there. So that gives you an idea of how to play it and what your win conditions are for the game, but actually how would you beat it if you're against it, or what do you want to avoid? Well, the biggest thing is poke. That is the best answer to this whole comp. Now while hard engage can actually counter poke, it's really hard because they have to engage before they get poked. So if you're able to poke proactively, like while they are still starting to group, then they're going to be too low to force a fight and then they can't do anything. Another way is you pick a team fight comp and you just build defensively on your carries. So if you have a Zhonya's or a Banshees, then it makes engaging onto you really hard. Like if you think about it, all of the hard engage comps have hard crowd control to lock you down and let their team follow up. And if you have those two, then they just can't lock you down. So they'll dive in, you'll avoid the CC, and then because you have a team fight comp, you can turn around, re-engage, and actually fight them. Essentially, this revolves around who is stronger in a team fight, because a fight is what they want, so they're pretty screwed if they can't win it. So that wraps up the first team comp video, and I always want to know what you think of new series, so let me know in the comments below. But that's all for this time, so I'll catch you in my next video.